Good afternoon and good evening, early evening to some of you. Welcome to the webinar that we're hosting today, How to Succeed with a New Short-Term Rental Listing in 2025. We'll just wait for about 30 seconds just to let all the attendees come in the room. I can see there's still people dropping in, so just bear with us for about 30 seconds. All right, I think we will just get started. There's a bit of preamble at the start here. We'll keep that fairly short while people are dropping in. But firstly, my name's Andrew Martin. I'm hosting the webinar. I'll introduce the other panelists in a minute. So this webinar is really for short-term rental hosts and property managers who have a new listing to list in the OTA booking channels. That might be somebody new, completely new to hosting, or just starting out with a property management business. It might be that you're growing your inventory and you've got a new property that you want to build and get out there, or it might be just some tips for you to optimize your existing listings. So that's what we'll be covering today. We will do just some short welcome and introductions to the panelists, a little bit about Your.Rentals, OptimiseRentals, and STAAA. STAAA is going to share some trends for the Australian market, as well as some updates on regulations in Australia. And then we'll get into the meat of the session, where we'll look at why is it so important for you to actually have a very clear plan when you're building new listings, and how can you do that in the best way possible. We will be running a Q&A at the end, so we'll leave some time at the end to answer your questions. If you could find in Zoom the Q&A button, it should be on the toolbar somewhere, depending which version you have. Please type the questions that you have. Some of the questions the people in the team here will be answering along the way, and some we'll leave to answer live at the end. And finally, we'll be recording this webinar, which we'll make available to you via the email that you registered with in the coming days. So first and foremost, I'm Andrew Martin. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Your.Rentals. While I grew up in Australia, I'm from Adelaide originally. I've lived in Sydney, lived in Melbourne. The last 20 years I've spent living in Scandinavia, so that's where I'm sitting today. Welcome to Blair Jones, who's a property manager, and she's also a committee member for STAAA, and she'll be playing with two hats today. Some of you who are STAAA members will see Kieran is here. She's not going to be participating in the webinar, but will be there to answer questions at the end. And finally, Peter Savari, who is co-founder and CEO at OptimiseRentals. We'll hear a bit about what that is in a second. So welcome to the panelists.
Thank you.
Right, very short off the bat, Your.Rentals. Some of you are customers today. Some of you might never have heard of us. So we are a short-term rental management platform. Basically, our promise is to give you a single login to run your whole short-term rental business. Whether you're a host with one listing or a property manager with tens or even hundreds of listings, we allow you to run your business without having the need for setting up and managing OTA host accounts. You won't need to be handling payments, and you don't need to use any other third-party software vendors, so everything in one place. We help you connect to more than 50 OTA channels from your account, and you get advanced features like dynamic pricing, guest registration and regulatory compliance, damage insurance, and a whole lot more, all for one fee. So a very simple solution. Secondly, I'll introduce Peter Savari from OptimiseRentals. Welcome, Peter. Would you give us a little overview of what you guys do?
Yeah, my name is Peter Sarvari, originally from Hungary. Also been living in Scandinavia, just across from Andrew in Copenhagen for 20 plus years. And I got into the short-term rental business about 7 years ago, but had my whole life in the hospitality business background. With my partners, we've been in the short-term rental business combined for about 20 years. And we've been working with Your.Rentals since 2019. So we have a bit of history together. Our core of the business is price optimization and revenue management. Our clientele are mostly property managers or owners with multiple units or buildings, and we helping their strategy regarding pricing and revenue management. We also have been working closely with the different OTAs. We really know how they're working. One of my partner is an ex-Booking.com manager, where he spent about 8 years of his career. And through my hospitality experience, we are also very much into customer engagement and how to handle that. That's about it.
Fantastic, Peter. And you'll hear a lot more tips from Peter and coming from his team about how they do this. And I think they're some of the best at doing this that I've met. So very lucky to have you on the panel, Peter.
Thank you.
Then Blair, welcome, Blair, sitting in Melbourne today. Would you give a short introduction to yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Melbourne, born and bred Victorian, so I wish I could say I've lived somewhere more exciting than that, but here we are. Lovely sunny day in Melbourne today, lovely 18-degree winter's day, so no complaints from me. I've been owner-operator for about a year, and before that, I currently work in residential construction, 18 years experience in that space. Before that, I was 5 years experience in hospitality. So putting the two together, it's led me to the STR space, so building our own properties and managing those at the same time. So we started our company, Twin Palms Holiday Rentals, about 3 years ago, slowly built our houses in the background, and we've been open for bookings for 12 months, and everything's ticking along very nicely.
Fantastic. And it's great to have someone that's just been through this for the first time not too long ago. So it'd be great to hear some of your experience as well, Blair. And as I mentioned, Blair is also a committee member for STAAA, and she would like to give you just a very short introduction of what they do and all the very important work that they're doing in Australia.
Yeah, thanks again, Andrew. So STAAA, we're an industry body. We represent owners and operators. We work with governments and local councils advocating for owners and operators of STRs in all across Australia. So really keen to advocate for some sustainability in our sector and making sure regulations are in line with expectations.
Great. And some updates on regulations. Some of these will be applicable to people listening in.
Yes, an ever-changing climate with regs in Australia. Obviously, we've got state governments that do one thing, and then within those state governments, you've got a whole raft of local councils or LGAs that have their own regulations. So it's definitely a bit of a minefield when it comes to regulations in our industry in Australia. Some of the big ticket things, I guess, that have happened over the last 12 months, anyone that's located in Victoria like myself will be very much aware that last year the 7.5% tax, STR tax, came into play. So that's been in play for about 12 months. Still very confusing. We don't have a lot of clarity on that. So we work through that as we get information still coming to hand. ACT in the same boat with 5%. Not applicable to direct bookings in the ACT, whereas Victoria it is. Tasmania are just about to introduce a 5% STR tax as well. So they don't miss out. So underway at the moment for any of our Vic operators, super important and a bit of a call to action for you guys. There's currently a review of the Owners Corporation Act, which means that if you're operating in a strata building or an owners corporation, even some of the housing estates do have body corps. That is up for review, which means there's potential that STRs could be banned or heavily regulated far beyond what they are now. So super important that if you are a Vic operator, that you're jumping on. I'm sure Kieran will pop that link into the chat, that you're jumping on and making sure you chuck your vote in there so that we can get some traction in that space and have a bit more of a say around how these things are regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So
moving
South
to
Australia,
SA.
Yeah, onto South Australia, they've got a parliamentary inquiry underway into STAAA. I know Kieran is working very closely with a lot of the politicians there to make sure that our views and opinions are put forward to them. So Kieran's feverishly working with them at the moment. I think she even had a meeting with them last week. So all happening. And New South Wales, I think this has been ongoing for a long time. Kieran's probably going to nod her head and say it's been ongoing, still ongoing. They're doing their review at the moment into the STRA space. And lucky last on this slide is overwhelming number of local government areas across Australia updating and reviewing STR planning policies. So, this is where it gets quite complex when you've got the state government doing the things like the tax, and then you've got your LGAs that are doing something completely different as well. So in some areas, in certain LGAs, STRs are being banned altogether. In other areas, they're completely unregulated. So I guess that's where we come in as an organisation to be able to guide you in that space and let you know which LGA has which regulations and work with them as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, I can only say that we've seen this sweep across Europe in different markets as well. It is very challenging, and the only way really to ensure that there's a fair playing field is to get involved. So in a minute, there'll be some details about how you can join STAAA or at least follow the work they do and help out. Right, but before that, some fresh market insights, Blair.
Yeah, after all that, not so much doom and gloom, but not so positive either. Some really positive data coming out over the last 12 months around our international travellers and their preference for where they're staying in the market. So you can see the column on the left-hand side. This is our domestic travellers on the left-hand side. So overwhelming domestic travellers, and it's probably an Australian thing. I think the old traditional, if I'm going somewhere, I'm going to stay in a hotel. So you can see there's a big chunk of the market of domestic travellers staying in hotels. And then it sort of trickles down from there. You've got your STR stuff down at 28%, and then caravan parks, camping grounds. Again, for all the Australians on the call, caravan parks, camping, very popular. That's just the place we live, and we've got the ability to do it. So we're very fortunate. On the right-hand column, we have our international travellers, and you can see that the hotel motel space drops off considerably, and then we pick up the rented house or apartment, so the STR space at about 32.2%, definitely being their most preferred, which tells us there's a really big demand in the market from our international travellers. The other good thing you note in those figures is that you've got 1.34 million nights up for grabs for anybody, so the market's still strong. Especially post-COVID. So some really good numbers there.
All right. Yeah, it is very impressive. I was quite surprised to see that the volume of international stays or from international guests was actually higher than domestic. That surprised me quite a lot. All right. And if you want to get involved with STAAA, how can you do that, Blair?
Down the bottom there, you can sign up via our website. You can also just pop some comments in the chat if you want. Kieran will flick you some details, and you can sign up. Look, from someone that I guess was fresh to the industry, this has been absolutely critical in my success as a business owner. Kieran, who is our managing director, is amazing. While she's very, very busy dealing with politicians and booking channels and all that stuff, she's always willing to help. And the really important part about being part of the STAAA is that we really only work with the members and their LGAs. So if we have an LGA that's doing something and we don't have any members, then we're really not going to focus in on that. So it's super important that you join. The support is amazing. Even just from a networking perspective, it's been super valuable for myself and the success of my business. So get on board. The details are there. It's for a small amount of money annually. It's very much worth it.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. But thanks for the intros there, Blair. Let's get right into the topic today, which is succeeding with a new listing. I mean, I've been in this industry for about 16 years, and talked with so many different property managers and hosts, not just in Australia, but around the world. There is such a varied approach to this. However, there is a very best practice approach that you can employ to do better than pretty much anyone else out there. There are very few people that do this perfectly. So what we have here today is a bunch of stuff that you can do when you're preparing and launching a new listing into the market that gives you the best chance for having a very long-term success with that unit in the future. I apologize, it's a lot of bullet points. You will be able to watch the recording again after, and you can take some screenshots along the way, but it is very much a checklist today. And there are some resources we'll talk about later that can help you learn if you're interested to learn on different topics. So Peter and I will sort of whip through a lot of this, and we'll get Blair's insights along the way as well. If you've got questions or insights, you're welcome to post them into the chat or the Q&A. So the challenges that a new listing faces, I mean, we're in a world today where OTAs generate somewhere around 80% of bookings, right? You might be, more successful with direct bookings, but the data says that it's around 80% share for OTAs. So particularly with a new listing, you need to let people know about it. And the only really strong, easy way to do that is through the OTAs. OTA algorithms, and we work very closely with all the OTAs, they track new listing performance from day one. A lot of people think that you can just launch something that's quick and I'll come back and fix it later. Absolute no. It has to be perfect when it goes into the channels. They start scoring your listing from day one. A strong start will mean that you get higher visibility and bookings long term, right? So the more visibility you get in the OTA search, the more times your property appears towards the top of search results, the more bookings you'll get if your listing is in good shape and your pricing is competitive. So a strong start will give you a very healthy future. A poor start means that you get low impressions, and guess what? The algorithm learns that I could put this at the top of search results, but it's not getting booked, so that doesn't earn any income and it's not that interesting to travelers. So that means that your listing will fade in terms of visibility, and that is very, very hard to fix. So the first 90 days are very, very important here. Your goal in the first 90 days is to get booked, to get people into the beds in your property, and to get positive reviews from those stays as well. So we're going to teach you some tips and tricks on how you can achieve that. Right, Peter, you guys have launched many, many new listings for your clients. We've got 6 points, I think, here. Can you walk us through them?
Yeah. So as Andrew mentioned, it's very, very important that once you publish your listing on the OTAs, on your own website, wherever you do it, that it's 100% accurate. Because first of all, once you do it wrong, it's very difficult to correct it. Or in some cases, you can't correct it. So for example, if you leave a not correct pin for your property on a Google map and you publish it on the OTAs, it takes weeks and weeks to correct it, because that's how OTAs are working. Also, everything has to be 100% correct, because if you say, let's say this place has a dishwasher and actually it doesn't have a dishwasher, that's already a very big no, because you will automatically get bad reviews from it. And again, once it's out in the world, it's just quite difficult to correct it afterwards. So you really have to make sure that everything is 100% accurate. Photos is one of the key elements to your listing, and it's so important that the photos are good. Me, as a passionate traveler, I'm traveling 8 to 10 times a year, and very often I'm staying I have one preference as far as OTA. I'm traveling with them a lot, and it's amazing how many bad listing I see as far pictures. people think that they just take some pictures with their phone or with a camera. They don't pay attention for any staging. So we always recommend use a professional photographer and use either an interior designer or a professional stager to take the pictures, because it's so important that the angle is correct, that the lights are correct, and everything is perfect. It should be like a hotel catalog, if I say so.
Peter, we get asked all the time, how many pictures should I have? Is there an answer to that question?
Yes, I mean, I don't recommend to have too many. I would say depends on the size of the property, of course, but at least between 15 to 20 of the property itself. We are very keen and we're helping our clientele to build floor plans. Floor plans are super important because it gives an overview to the potential guest to see how big is actually the bathroom and the bedroom, etc. And we always recommend also to take pictures of the building or the property from outside, and also of the surrounding area. So if you have, for example, if you have a beach house, take pictures of the actual beach. If you have a playground, for example, nearby, take picture of the playground. It's very helpful for families traveling with kids to decide on your property. If you have a nice coffee shop or anything interesting that a tourist can potentially use, take picture of that and attach it to the property.
I think there's a bit more on this later, but you know, I was looking at Blair's properties where we're preparing, and your photos are fantastic, Blair. Where did you take them yourself, or did you have someone come and take those?
So I'm lucky enough, my sister is a professional photographer by trade, so we got her in, and she did her magic.
Yeah, and the staging is fantastic too. I mean, that makes a big difference.
My partners also looked at your properties and they said, great pictures, good listing. So well done. Well done. Or for example, I saw at one of your property, I assume you're supplying bicycles with the property, and there were some really cool pictures on the front of the garage of the bikes. I love those.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, moving on so we don't run out of time here.
Yeah.
But
the more info you put is the better. So really describe the property in details. Also, if you're working with a proper channel manager such as Your.Rental, you have the options to set up all those amenities and everything, and just click, and they will push it out to all the OTAs. Very important to do those. And that is also actually the algorithm how it's working with OTAs. They give you a score, how good is your listing. So it's super important that all the information is there. And then, I think we're going to talk a bit more about flexible rules, but also less restrictions, more visibility. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Price competitive. We always suggest, and that's something we also do to our clientele. We're using different rentalizer softwares where we look at historical data. I'm so sorry. We're looking at historical data regarding your property and the area that your property is in. You have to make a proper budget to yourself, how much money you need to earn over the next 12 months, make a pacing model, be sure that you know in January how well you want to be booked for March, April, May, June, July, and so on, and follow that, and also check the competition. It's very important. I met with many owners and property managers that they believe, oh, my property worth this and this much money per night. You might be right and you believe in that, but is there a demand for that price? Might be not. And then you have to act on it, because you can set the price or whatever you want, but are you going to sell it? So that's important decisions to make.
And you mentioned budgeting before. I mean, I'm not sure how many hosts or property managers actually do budget for each property, but you guys do it.
Yeah, we do it, and we also helping our clientele. So again, we're looking at historical data, and based on that, we make them a budget that is realistic. We believe it's reachable, and we try to tell them that that's what they should work with, especially on a new property and for the first 12 months.
You talked about pacing. Maybe give an example again what that is.
Again, we just met with a new clientele who was super happy. Now, again, this is in Europe, so we are at the end of the high season on the Mediterranean, and she was so impressed with herself that they already 80% booked for next summer. And I said, well, that's great, and if it makes you feel good, that's wonderful. But probably you're selling it too cheap. That's why you are so well booked. So when we're talking about pacing model, it's not only that you should set up your occupancy rates pacing model, where you say that, okay, we are end of August, so for next April, I would like to have maybe 10% booked when the season starts. And then you have to control that with the pricing model, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We'll go into a bit more detail on pricing in a minute, but you know, we use pacing a lot here for our whole portfolio as well, and I think it tells you a lot, especially if you track it over several years. Then you have some historicals to compare to. All right, let's move on and talk a bit more deeply about listing content. So this is, you know, what is shown on the OTA when somebody actually looks at your listing. What are your top points for the listing content, Peter?
Well, again, if you're using a channel manager where you are able to fill in all the different fields, and then that channel manager will push the content to the OTAs, that's great. If you are a host where, for example, you're only using Airbnb and Booking.com, you can do it directly on there. But again, it's the more information you fill out, the more info you giving on the field, is the better for the listing. And as I said, OTAs are tracking how much information you're giving and how accurate it is, and that will be adding to the value of your property and to the visibility of the property. So if the OTA realizes that you might be a fake listing because you didn't fill out most of the things, then you're risking that they will close the property. And also you're risking that you're not going to have the visibility, and no visibility if nobody sees your property because you are the 1050th property in that portfolio in the area, then you're going to get very little booking or no booking at all.
And one thing I will add here as well, I don't know how many of the people listening here have seen it, but I mean, we talk about AI a lot, but I saw some really impressive demos of how AI is going to change search. If you think of an OTA website, you click filters and categories, and then it shows you properties that match. That's all going to change. And if you haven't seen it, just Google Booking.com AI trip planner. There's some YouTube videos you can watch. It's crazy. I mean, if you're using ChatGPT or some other AI system for your daily work, it will basically create a trip based on a conversation you have with it, no search filters or anything. So all the content, and basically what Booking.com said is that the more rich your content is with the keywords of facilities, what you can do around there, all of these types of information, the more likely your property is going to be recommended. So this is super important. It's becoming even more important. It's not just to appear in a category on their search filter. It's actually now about how well you write your description and other things as well. Which comes to the next point.
Yeah, it goes back to that. You can absolutely use AI to improve the style when it comes to the description. And the description, when we talk about when you do the listing and there is an option to describe the property, and it's really important that you write that well and write about the character of the building, and also for example, this apartment is convenient because it's 300 meters from the beach and 200 meters from the casino, for example. So if the location has a special character, it's very important to put it in. And then the basics, that 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So the description has to be describing the property, the characters, the size, the number of bedroom, bathrooms, any special amenities, private pool, shared pool, apartments, super important. I mean, in Australia, most of the buildings are new, so there is elevator everywhere. But for example, in Europe, a lot of buildings in Copenhagen, where I live, it's I think that of the whole portfolio of 100 plus apartments in Copenhagen, there is only 2 buildings that has elevator. So really do that well.
And it's about setting the right expectation as well. You want a good review. So if someone comes to stay and they've been oversold and you didn't tell them there were stairs and they can't climb stairs, then it's going to create a problem.
Yes. Yeah, photos we talked about. Again, use professional photographer, use somebody to do the staging, and use the people who knows how to do it. So preferably choose somebody who done it before. If they can send you some reference pictures that they done before on properties, either for long-term or short-term rental, I would recommend to use them. Yes, again, full amenity details. People are using the filters when they're searching for vacation or business travel. So just really fill out all the details. And different OTAs have different options to tailor the content that you're writing. So really look into those and use to their full capacity. That's absolutely a must.
And it depends. I mean, if you're using a channel manager, you need to figure out how you can put specific content for each of the main OTAs, at least in there. In Your.Rentals, we have fields available that Booking.com sees as very important, but Airbnb never asks for. So you really need to make sure that you're actually focused on getting your listing perfect in at least the top OTAs. All right, thanks for that. And now we're going to talk a bit more about pricing. I think this one is really important, especially in the new, the first 6-12 months of your listing. So, Peter, what do you recommend in terms of pricing? Is the strategy different in the first year than thereafter, or?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, to get the first bookings, really the price does not matter in a long run. So you should look at it as an investment from your side. Now, of course, I don't say if you have a villa with a private pool on the beach that you should just give it away for $20. Of course, that doesn't make sense. But again, look at the historical data, look at what your competition is renting out. And speaking, the data is available, historical data that you will find on competition. They've been on the OTAs available for the last 12 months at least, because otherwise they will not show up in the data. So you can see how much they were charging 12 months ago in the same month that you're starting now. So try to compare it with that and maybe go under them a little bit. Definitely go under the competition, even if you think that your property is newer and nicer and the pool is bigger and the amenities are nicer. Just get those first bookings, because that will help you to get visibility. That will help you to get the first reviews, and that will help you to then raise the price slowly.
And I think we've covered this point. But yes, so the first period is an investment, and your goal is really to get those first reviews and get people stayed, and of course 5-star or 10-star reviews depending on the platform.
Yeah.
And what about discounts? How can this help in the early stages?
Well, different OTAs has different discounts possibilities. Airbnb, for example, you can give away different discounts for the first 3 bookings. On booking.com, you can apply, and normally they give it, that it's a new property, so you will be on the top of the list until you receive your first bookings. And then because it's also in their interest to give you visibility, especially if they see that your listing is really professional and nice. The OTAs will try to help you, because it's also in their interest, because once you make money, they make money. So it's really working, and I would urge people to use those possibilities.
Yeah, and think about it yourself as a consumer as well. If you're shopping, doesn't matter whether it's a short-term rental accommodation or you're shopping for a sweatshirt or something on an e-commerce site, the discount banner that shows signals you're getting a good deal. So you can use that to merchandise your property, so it sticks out in the search results as well.
Yeah.
And then finally, on this slide about dynamic pricing, we I'll take this point, but dynamic pricing, some of you have used it, some of you may have tried it, didn't find that it worked for you, some maybe use it and it does, some maybe haven't tried it. But we have in Your.Rentals thousands of listings that have been using dynamic pricing within our platform for 18 months. And what we have seen when we compare the manual pricing that these properties and the hosts or managers did before versus the dynamic pricing, what is the impact on their booking metrics? So we actually compared the same seasonality with manual pricing and with seasonal pricing. What we found is an increase of 36% in gross booked revenue. I should state it's gross booked revenue. 37% increase in nights booked. And this one, I think, is probably the one that excites me the most, a 40% drop in cancellations. So if you think about an increase in gross booked revenue and a decrease in cancellations, you can see that your net revenue or your stayed revenue is going to be quite a lot higher. It's not going to be the case for everyone, but this is averaged over about 650 listings, as I said before. There's a table here. I won't go through it in the interest of time, but here are actually the metrics. We've standardized it. It's across hundreds of markets as well. It's not just one market. You can read on our blog. There's an article. Maybe one of the team can post that in the chat here, so you've got a direct link to it, the full study details. So if you haven't tried it, it can really change the results. And if you use it from the start, again, it's going to be adjusting your pricing every day to make sure that you are market competitive. All right. And in terms of discounts, we talked about it before. And we talked about the goal that you want to earn those first 3 reviews fast. And ideally, if you have a multi-channel distribution, that should be on each OTA, right? You want 3 reviews, high reviews, and that will help the search algorithm say, hey, this property is getting booked. Guests are happy with their stay. I'm going to just pump that until we can't sell any more nights. So with the discounts, there's 3 main types that we can go through. Peter, will you just talk through these quickly?
Yeah. Last minute deals, it's you can set the percentage the way you want, and typically we recommend that you use it for the 7 days before the check-in day, and then for people who wanna book early, they are really good, especially for big houses and big villas, because typically they have a longer booking window, and use early bird discounts. People just like that. And then longer stay discounts, again, it's really good. Now, in some platforms, you can also stock the different deals and discounts. So you just have to be careful that you don't give too many of them together, because then you might end up, suddenly you get a booking and you're like, they got 40% discount. How that can be? Well, maybe they were genius user on booking.com, for example, and then you give them a last minute deal on 20%, and then on top of that they do a long stay discount, and then you end up giving a lot of discounts away. So you just have to be careful how you set them up and choose the stackable or non-stackable discounts, and really make the best choice. You can also set it up that way that the OTA will choose the biggest discount to apply. That is also a smart way to do it. So for example, if you give 15% as a Genius user, but you're also giving 20% last minute, then they will not get the Genius user. Worst case is that they write you a message that, hey, I'm a Genius user, how come I didn't get my usual 15%? And then you just have to write back to them that since you're getting the last minute deal, which is 20%, that applies as a better deal for you. So that's what you're getting. But it's really good to use, and people love discounts. Everybody loves them.
And again, when your properties depends on the platform in the search results, it can have a little red flag saying, minus 15% or something, and that does stick out. So discounts are pretty important on how the guest is actually going to see your property on the platform. Okay, these are kind of standard discounts that most, if not all, channels support. And then we also have different specific promotions for each of the major OTAs. Can you tell us your experience with these, Peter?
Yeah, it's I would say on booking.com, the Genius is the best from our experience. And it's just super important that you get the first good reviews. You will get a notification from booking.com once you can apply for it, because you have enough good reviews. And I would strongly suggest, and I think the minimum is 10%, and then you can increase that to higher. Airbnb is not that much into discounts, but you can set it up as well. In general speaking, these two are the biggest ones. I mean, as Andrew also mentioned, about 80% of all your bookings will come from these two. Now, I would like to point out one thing that a lot of people are not aware of it, especially property managers or owners who have a lot of properties. They typically build a website for direct booking, and what they do, they really give a big discount on direct booking through their website. What you have to be aware of, that both booking.com and Airbnb is scraping for prices what the competition is doing. And if they realize that on your own website you giving more than 15% discount compared to the prices that you set on their channels, they will punish you. Booking.com is a European company. There is some regulations from the EU regarding that, so they cannot punish you. But what they will do, they will use their own 15% commission that they take from you to fight back your discount on your website. Now, Airbnb is a Californian registered company. They can actually punish you, so they will put your visibility down. They will put you pages and pages down your property, even if you have very good reviews. And in cases, they can also shut you down and just say that they don't want you. So be aware of that when you're setting the prices on your own website. I would recommend to get more direct booking. It's better to offer them extra services as complimentary to get them to book it on your website instead of the OTAs. Again, this is just some insights. I can also tell you that one good way to get more good reviews is that if you have a whole building, for example, with multiple units in it, or you have several villas next to each other that are very similar, you should set them up as a multi-unit property, because that will give you more visibility. As well, all the reviews for the individual units will show on all of them as far they set it up as a multi-unit property. But this could be for another call. But if anybody is more interested about this, they can reach out to me, and I'd be happy to have a call or have a chat about it.
Great. Yeah. And I think also on the topic of, rewarding guests for booking directly, you can use specific promotions. I mean, if a large share of your direct bookings is coming from returning guests or your social media, you can offer promos there, which are applied when they check out on your website. We have in the Your.Rentals platform and our website promo features you can use that way. So you can have price parity if someone just happened to find your website. But for those loyal guests, you can offer them specific promo codes that gives them a discount after. All right, we need to move on or we will run short of time. I'd like to leave some time for questions. But this topic here, I think if you're kind of maybe cooking dinner, listen to this, because we do a lot of work with OTAs about how to get listings to perform better. And this is one of the top things, not just for new listings, but for existing listings. So I recommend to pay attention here. Peter, limitations, be flexible. I mean, this is all about making sure that if there's 100 searches in your area for a property, that you're going to appear in as many of those search results as possible. People don't think about this, but it's super important.
Yes, absolutely. As I said before, fewer restrictions, more bookings. And restrictions, what I mean is, I always give a very simple example. If you say that your property is adults only, so you restrict kids to enter, and you add that to the listing with a very strict policy, that means that any family traveling, they will never see your property. Even though if you say that, okay, you just don't want small kids, so let's say you don't want kids under 5 or something, so you really have to think about what restrictions you put. Also, the minimum stay, I always recommend that do 1-night stay, especially for apartments, condos. Do 1-night stay. You just have to set the price high enough that is worth it for you. Because we meet a lot of people who say, I only want 1 week, people for 1 week. That's over. The 1 week stay used to be very strict, especially on the Mediterranean, where charter flights was going down to the Greek islands Saturday to Saturday, Saturday to Saturday. But that's finished. That business is almost dinosaurs now. There are flights going every day from everywhere, and people want the flexibility. And they might not want to stay in your property for 1 week, but they want to stay for 3 days there and 4 days in another place. So give the flexibility, play with the prices. Of course, if somebody want to book it for a whole week, give them a better price. But if somebody is willing to pay a much higher price for 1 or 2 nights, let them be.
Mm-hmm.
Check in, check out days that I just mentioned. That this Saturday to Saturday, that's a very...
No, it's a huge restriction, and it will mean that you're only appearing in very, very few
you will only appear
results
for the people who are looking from Saturday to Saturday. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else gonna see it. Same day arrivals, super important. Ideally, your calendar should be looking, when it's fully booked, at guest in, guest out, guest out, guest in. So yeah, that's...
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to cancellation policies, I mean, different OTAs have different options. We always recommend to use them all. And again, play with the prices. Give a good discount for non-refundable, fully refundable, partially refundable. We always recommend to use all 3 of them.
Yeah, and this is really important. This kind of change came more or less during COVID. We didn't really have fully refundable before COVID. It was always partially refundable. So it's quite new, but what we found since 2020 is that if you are using at least 2 cancellation policies, your booking conversion rate goes up significantly. And at a minimum, it should be a non-refundable and a fully refundable. Of course, change your pricing there, right? So your non-refundable, you do have to offer a better price, because if the guest does need to cancel, then they're not getting any of their money back. whereas with fully refundable, we saw for a period that was about 80 to 90% of bookings. We're seeing non-refundable actually growing as a share of bookings at the moment, because people are learning how to use it properly and setting the right sort of rate parity between the policies. We allow you to set 3 different cancellation policies, so you can have a partially refundable in between as well. And where channels support that, they will show all 3 options. A really big conversion driver for those who are not using that. All right, and then in terms of, okay, you've got the booking, what happens next? How do I make sure I get this 5-star review or 10-star, depending on the platform? Peter, how are we doing?
Reviews is everything. Besides photos, reviews is your review score is the main decision maker to get the booking. So it's very, very important that your reviews are high. Big part of the reviews are coming from the communication, how you communicating with the guest, how much you are available. We have an internal policy where we're helping clientele with guest communication that we have to reply back within 1 hour to the guest. And then also how you reply. It has to be professional, it has to be friendly, but not over friendly. Always call the guest by name, so always write the name so it doesn't look like an AI generated message. By the way, a lot of these messages you can automaticate, and your rental now even have the option where you're sending an automatic message. So for example, when you receive a booking, it's always nice to send them a message that, "Dear Andrew, thank you for the reservation. We're looking forward to host you. And if you have any question, let us know." This message can be sent automatically, and it will pull the name, the first name of the reservation that is made. So even though it's automatic, but you can add some little nice gestures that it will make them feel extra welcome and extra special. Yeah, and then when it comes to reviews, it's super important that you read your reviews and that you answer them. First of all, on Airbnb, you will not be able to see your reviews until you review the guest. You have 14 days to do that after they check out. So we always recommend to leave a review on the guest, because Airbnb clienteles, they like to be reviewed. Once you leave a review, they will most likely also leave a review for your property, and then you will see it. And it doesn't matter if the review is good or bad, you have to answer them, because that is part of your the OTAs are looking at you, how good you are as a host. The more you're communicating with the guest, the more you answer the reviews, the better host you are.
And I was going to ask Blair, in your first year of hosting, like, what's your experience being with the reviews, and how do you deal with it? Does it cause you trouble, or I noticed you had a very good Airbnb review score, but
Yeah, look, we're obviously in line with what Peter's saying. Reviews are our bread and butter. So we automate messages to our clients after their stay, asking them for a review. And if there's any reason why they can't give us a 5-star review, to please provide us directly with that feedback. So we found a fair bit of success in that. We obviously manage those reviews on the platform as well as off the platform. So just opening those lines of communications via various methods with our guests. We've found it, yeah, I think that's the main reason you get bookings. You start to get that momentum. And then once you've got a certain amount of reviews, we've really found the bookings take off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I would like to
think
add that it's super important to check up on the guest after they checked in. So typically we recommend that within the first 24 to 48 hours, depends on how long they're staying, you get in touch with them. If they would like to meet you because you live in the area, or maybe you live in the same building, it's great. If not, reach out to them either via message on the platform or on WhatsApp or wherever you are communicating with them, and just find out that they enjoy everything, they found everything. Because if not, you still have time to make up for it. And then when it comes to reviews, it's super important that you read your reviews and that you answer them. First of all, on Airbnb, you will not be able to see your reviews until you review the guest. You have 14 days to do that after they check out. So we automate messages to our clienteles either via message on the platform or on WhatsApp or wherever you are communicating with them, and just find out that they enjoy everything, they found everything. Because if not, you still have time to make up for it. If you find out from their review that the air condition was not working, for example, it's too late. There's nothing you can do about it. Or if they can't find the dishwasher tablets for some reason. If you find it out on time, you can still help them and make them feel comfortable. The review will be still good. So it's very important to communicate with your guest.
Yeah, and here to finish up, actually, on the content here is a checklist of things you should, hopefully are doing to make sure that the guest stay in itself is memorable, is comfortable, and you do have a great chance to get a full 5-star review. So clear communication, as Peter was saying, before and after check-in. You can use automation on messaging to make that less work for you, but you also do need to pay attention if there's some sort of special request or different requirements that the guest has before check-in. Peter, this one is interesting to me. Personalization, ask for bed preferences. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, depends on the level of services you're offering, but I actually worked as a company for quite some years in hospitality where guests could choose from the hardness of the mattress and the pillow size and what kind of duvet they wanted. And then we not only supplied that, but also we kept as a history of the guests. So if they return, there was a huge amount of returning guests, it was saved. So they didn't have to fill it out again. It was automatically set with their preference. I mean, that's a ultra level, I would say.
That's next level, yeah.
That's next level. But for example, if you have coffee machines in your property and somebody is requesting decaffeinated coffee, that is something you can attach to the guest data. So in case they come back, it's a nice touch when you write to them, oh, by the way, the decaf coffee will be there when you arrive. So those small things, I mean, again, that's different level of hospitality, but it depends on what kind of property you have and what kind of service you want to offer. But with those things, you can gain a lot of returning guests and a lot of hearts, that's for sure.
And Blair, what do you do during the guest stay to make it memorable? We saw the bikes outside your property. Obviously, bike rental in the countryside, that's free bikes, I'm guessing, is a fantastic extra. What else do you do? What have you tried to do?
The bikes are very popular. I would definitely say that's a smash hit for us. But we do all sorts of things. We provide, tea, coffee, all those minor things. There's milk in the fridge when they get there. We've got games rooms. We've got arcade games and board games in the cupboards are always a big hit. Really basic touch, and might cost you a couple of $100 to go down and buy some board games. Big hit. PlayStation games on the TVs, free Wi-Fi, Netflix already logged in, that sort of stuff, all like conveniences that just make the stay really comfortable for our guests.
And I think it's also important to understand, your property, who's it best suited for. So if you've got a lot of families, then you need to think through, what does the family need on vacation? And if you've got an apartment for short stays, then it's probably more about, having a good work area where someone can sit and work, or whatever the case may be. All right, but we're almost out of time. I would like to get to a couple of questions in the Q&A. Thanks for posting those. Before we do that, so I guess the tagline here is the first year is an investment. So our advice is to do everything, go all in, make sure that your listing the first day it goes live is perfect. You're pricing very competitively to make sure you're getting the first bookings quickly, and do everything you can to get those positive reviews from each booking as well. That will help you to get very strong traction in the OTAs, which will stay with your listing for a long time if you continue to do that. Okay, to the questions, and for those, I'm sorry, we're going a minute or two over here. From Peter, he writes that he knows the presentation is aimed at newer listings, but they've been doing this for about 8 years. Bookings have been strong, but in the last year, OTA bookings have dropped off. The main bookings we have now are direct, either new bookers or repeat. Is it a general slowdown, or we're doing something wrong? Peter, maybe have a think, but I mean, I would firstly, Peter, check your review scores. Like if your review score is not really in the top 10%, that is something that will impact it. And as we said earlier, if you're not getting good reviews, and particularly if you're not answering bad reviews as well, this will really start to impact the performance in the channels. I would also recommend just have a look through the checklist we provided here and see what you can optimize. Third point I would say is look at the general market data nearby you. Don't know if you use any market insight tools, but you can get those from platforms like AirDNA. Booking.com has market insights for your local area as well, just to see what the trends are in your local market. Peter, anything else you want to add?
No, pretty much like that. But basically, if your review score is under 8 on Booking.com, then you are really down. If you are below 7, most likely they will close your property. Airbnb is even more strict. If you are under 4.2, most likely they will close your property. Also on Airbnb, if you get 3 bad reviews about the same thing, so for example, you get 3 bad review about cleaning, they will close your property.
Yeah. And I must say also, if you get to that position, it's very hard to recover. It's not as simple as delete your listing and rebuild it. They will know it's the same listing. If you do have a problem with a particular channel, you can talk to us. We have some tricks and maybe some different lines into the OTAs where we might be able to help out. But you don't want to be in that place in the first place.
No.
Is the best recommendation.
Avoid it at any cost. If this is the industry you want to be in, you really have to. Then don't do it.
Yeah. Question from Zahir: how far in the future can we make the calendar available, or maybe should you make it available? I mean, we recommend at least 12 months. Often people come for a stay and they want to book the same property for next year, particularly if your area has limited demand. At least 12 months is our recommendation. And Peter, would you extend that even further, or?
12 months for sure, minimum 12 months or 12 months. What is important also, again, is that you set the prices for the whole 12 months. So just don't do like in the old days that there is a low season price and then there is a high season price. It's way too old fashioned. Do different prices for the weekends, do check, of course, do different prices for holidays, anything happening in your area. So if you are, for example, on the Gold Coast and there is a big motor race going on or something, then of course set the prices higher. If there is a big concert, if there is anything happening that should push up the prices, you have to set them now for the next 12 months.
And there's 2 questions just to finish up here that are sort of overlapping. One is, does dynamic pricing take into account local demand like events? And the other one is from Adam. Peter said earlier something about the last 12 months pricing data for your area. Is there somewhere that lists all the peak events for your location? I mean, I can answer that fairly generally. Dynamic pricing does account for local events. We work with a couple of big dynamic pricing vendors, and they have events calendars, and as soon as concert tours are announced, they've got them in the calendar for the area you're in. It may take a few hours to get it there, but it's probably faster than you having to keep an eye on that. In terms of pricing history, Peter did talk a lot about researching competition. If you're using dynamic pricing, it does take into account all of those things, right? So it does look at the history over not just the past 12 months, but previous years. It looks at the pacing for your area. We did previous webinars on that, so you can search on Your.Rentals homepage and you'll be able to find some links to those webinars if you want to learn more specifically about dynamic pricing. So I think that there were a few other questions that maybe are not that interesting to everyone else, and we are well out of time. So I think we'll finish up here. You're most welcome to get in touch with us at Your.Rentals or Peter at OptimiseRentals, and of course get involved with STAAA, because your help is the only way to sort of have a balanced and fair playing field in the future in your area. So thanks to the panelists. Thank you, Blair. Thank you, Peter. Great to have you join me on this, and hope everyone who was listening had learned something. We'll share the recording with you in the coming days. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.